Before the ancients spoke of heaven, they mapped 10, not metaphors for virtue, not stages of moral ascent. 10 actual cosmological domains, each with its own substance, its own order, its own laws of being. A vertical architecture rising from the boundary of the visible world to the throne of the Absolute itself. Enoch walked this structure. The seventh patriarch did not theorize about celestial realms. He traversed them. He passed through gates of flame, chambers where winds are stored, courts where judgment is rendered before time ends. He stood in archives, where every human deed is recorded in fire. He witnessed rebel angels suspended in cosmic prisons. He returned with a map. Early Christianity inherited this cosmography. The ascension of Isaiah described Christ rising through 7 hostile heavens, each ruled by archons who did not recognize him. Second Enoch detailed 10 heavens in precise architectural order. Origen proposed graduated spheres of purification where souls are refined by increasing proximity to divine light. Persia possessed the same knowledge. Zoroastrian cosmology envisioned 10 ascending dominions, each governed by a different emanation of Ahura Mazda's luminosity. The Hermetic texts whispered of planetary spheres enclosing an Ogdoad, a realm beyond the governance of fate. These traditions did not invent parallel symbols. They described a single reality, the cosmos as stratified being. The 10 heavens were not locations in physical space, but ontological gradations, layers of existence arranged by density, luminosity, and proximity to the source. To ascend them was not to travel upward, but to be transformed, threshold by threshold, until the soul that began the journey no longer existed. This is the architecture the prophets entered, the ladder the mystics climbed, the structure underlying every ascent. The doctrine of multiple heavens emerges from Second Temple Judaism, that crucible period between 300 BCE and 100 CE, when Jewish apocalyptic thought absorbed and transformed Persian, Babylonian, and Hellenistic cosmological speculation. First Enoch, composed in stages across 3 centuries, establishes the foundation. The text describes Enoch's passage through multiple celestial zones, regions where fallen stars are imprisoned, where the watchers who descended in the days of Jared await final judgment, where the righteous dead dwell in chambers of light. The cosmos is revealed as layered, each layer governed by different orders of beings and subject to different laws. Second Enoch, likely composed in the 1st century CE, makes the structure explicit. It describes 10 heavens in meticulous cosmographic detail, their inhabitants, their functions, their metaphysical properties. This text provides the most complete map of vertical cosmology in ancient Jewish literature. The influence of Persia cannot be separated from this development. Zoroastrian cosmology conceived creation as emanation through stages, 7 or 10 ascending levels, each corresponding to one of the Amesha Spentas, the holy immortals, who are ontological principles radiating from Ahura Mazda, Vohu Mana, good mind, Asha Vahishta, best order, Kshatra Vairya, desirable dominion. Each represents a different intensity of primordial light, a different mode of cosmic law. Early Christianity seized this framework and reshaped it. The ascension of Isaiah, dating to the late 1st or early 2nd century, describes the prophet's vision of 7 heavens, though some manuscript traditions hint at additional realms beyond the 7th. Paul's cryptic reference in 2 Corinthians 12:2 to being caught up to the 3rd heaven presupposes a multi-layered cosmos already familiar to his audience. Origen proposed a cosmology of graduated spheres where souls undergo purification through successive encounters with increasingly pure light. What unified these traditions was a single metaphysical insight. The cosmos is not a dome over a flat earth, but a hierarchy of states. Each heaven represents a different density of being, a different mode of divine presence. The lower heavens are domains where order struggles against resistance, rebel angels, zones of judgment, cosmic mechanisms. The higher heavens transcend struggle by revealing it as a necessary expression of manifestation itself. The 10 heavens represent an ancient science of consciousness, a precise cartography of the soul's return through the structure of emanation back to its source. The ascent begins at the threshold of visibility. The 1st heaven is the boundary, the region where atmosphere thickens into luminous substance. In 2nd Enoch, this is the heaven of meteorological forces, where angels govern winds, clouds, and dew. This is the outermost ring of intelligible order, where natural law begins its transformation into cosmic will. The 2nd heaven darkens. Here, spirits are held in suspension, not the fully fallen, but those awaiting judgment. Some traditions place the rebellious watchers here, imprisoned in zones of alternating fire and ice. It is a realm of unresolved tension, where divine justice has been declared but not yet executed. The 3rd heaven bifurcates. In 2nd Enoch, it contains both paradise and a place of preliminary torment. The righteous dwell in gardens of incomparable beauty. Nearby, impossibly near, the wicked undergo purification in zones of fire. Paul was taken here, but could not speak of what he witnessed. The 4th heaven houses the cosmic mechanisms. The chariots of sun and moon traverse their ordained circuits. Angels regulate the calendar, solstices, equinoxes, the phases that govern agricultural and liturgical time. Here, eternity translates into duration. The 5th heaven returns to imprisonment, but of a different order. In 2nd Enoch, the Grigori, the highest order of watchers, stand here in perpetual silence. They wait in mourning for their transgression, suspended between judgment and annihilation. The 6th heaven is the realm of cosmic memory. Here are the angelic scribes who record every deed, every thought, every word spoken beneath the moon. 7 phoenixes and 7 cherubim sing without cessation. The archives of creation are kept here, not as external records, but as the structure of being itself. The 7th heaven in most traditions marks the highest realm, the domain of the throne. But in 10 heaven cosmographies, the 7th is threshold rather than culmination. Here, the angelic hierarchies gather in concentric orders: thrones, dominions, powers, seraphim. The atmosphere is no longer atmosphere, but light. The light is no longer light, but fire. the eighth heaven exceeds the governance of fate. In Hermetic and Gnostic cosmology, the eighth is the Ogdoad, the realm beyond the seven planetary archons who determine earthly destiny. In Enochian traditions, the eighth governs the fixed stars, the constellational order that structures cosmic time on scales incomprehensible to mortal awareness. The ninth heaven is the luminous boundary. Few texts describe it directly because it exceeds symbolic representation. Some associate it with the highest seraphim, who burn in perpetual self-offering. Others speak of it only in negations, not fire, not light, not form. The 10th heaven is called the region of the Lord's face, yet no face appears. It is named the realm of the divine presence, yet presence implies location, and the 10th is not a location. It is the principle from which all heavens unfold, not the highest point in a hierarchy, but the center from which all points radiate. The ancient cosmographers were not mapping the sky. They were charting consciousness. Each heaven corresponds to a mode of awareness, a degree of ontological clarity. The first heaven marks the threshold where mind recognizes itself as distinct from matter. The soul perceives that physical reality is not the whole of being, but only the densest layer of a stratified cosmos. The second and fifth heavens, realms of imprisoned spirits, represent layers where the soul confronts its own fragmentation. These are not external prisons, but internal recognitions, the parts of awareness that have fallen into identification with rebellion, with separation, with the illusion of autonomy apart from cosmic order. The third heaven, paradise and torment coexisting, is the realm of alignment. What appears as judgment is actually resonance. The soul experiences itself as either consonant or dissonant with the harmonic structure of reality. Light does not punish what cannot abide it. Light reveals what always was. The fourth heaven, the cosmic mechanisms, reveals time as intelligent design. Duration ceases to be linear progression and becomes visible as pattern, as the unfolding of an already complete mandala. The soul recognizes that the movements of sun and moon are expressions of divine rhythm. The sixth heaven, the archives, unveils the inescapability of being. Every action, every thought exists, not in the past, but in the eternal structure of the present. Nothing is forgotten because nothing passes. All moments are simultaneous in the higher realms. The seventh heaven marks the transition from cosmological structure to metaphysical unveiling. The angelic choirs are not separate beings offering worship, but modes of consciousness recognizing its own nature as praise, as self-offering, as perpetual return to source. The eighth heaven, beyond the planetary spheres, liberates the soul from cosmic determinism. The seven heavens below govern the cycles of generation and decay, binding existence to fate. To pass the eighth is to step outside causality, to recognize oneself as prior to the mechanisms that appeared to determine all movement. The ninth heaven is the stripping of attributes. Here, every quality, every particular identity accumulated in the soul's descent is removed. What ascends is no longer a soul, but awareness itself, purified of limitation. The 10th heaven cannot be described because it is not a state entered. It is the recognition that the soul never departed from it. All ascent was the gradual removal of illusion. The 10th is not attained, it reveals itself as what the ascent was always occurring within. The 10 heavens are consciousness recognizing itself through veils, each transparency revealing a deeper depth, until depth itself is seen as surface, and the journey ends where it began. The architecture of 10 heavens appears across traditions because it describes a structure inherent to emanation itself. Persian cosmology knew this intimately. Zoroastrian texts describe creation as tenfold emanation from Ahura Mazda. The Amesha Spentas, holy immortals, are ontological principles arranged in descending intensity. Vohu Mana, good mind, radiates first, closest to the source. Asha Vahishta, best order, follows, structuring cosmic law. Each represents a different density of primordial light. The returning soul must be initiated into each principle in ascending sequence. The Hermetic tradition mapped identical structures through different symbols. The soul descends through planetary spheres, acquiring limitations at each level: desire in Venus, aggression in Mars, cunning in Mercury. Return requires shedding these accretions in reverse order until the soul passes the 7th sphere and enters the Ogdoad, the realm beyond fate. Hermetic texts hint at higher regions, the Ennead, and the realm of Nous itself. Early Christian mysticism inherited and transformed these cosmographies. Origen proposed heavens of increasing luminosity, each demanding purification before passage. The Ascension of Isaiah describes Christ ascending through hostile archons who rule each sphere. The Gnostic Apocryphon of John details elaborate hierarchies of aeons, with the pleroma divided into multiple luminous domains. Jewish mysticism developed parallel structures. The Hekkalot literature describes 7 palaces through which the throne mystic must pass, each guarded by fierce angelic powers. But earlier traditions suggest more. The Sefer Yetzirah speaks of 10 sephirot, 10 utterances through which the infinite contracted into finite creation. What unifies these systems is recognition that ascent is not simple dualism, earth below, heaven above. The cosmos is stratified by ontological density. Between matter and absolute lie graduated realms, each with distinct substance and law. The soul cannot leap from multiplicity to unity in a single bound. The number 10 recurs because it represents cosmological completeness. 7 manifest spheres governing visible creation, plus 3 hidden principles from which the 7 emanate. The 10 heavens encode a metaphysics that modern thought has lost. Ancient cosmology was operational. The heavens were not believed in, they were traversed. Enoch did not theorize, he walked. The Hermetic initiate experience planetary spheres as actual thresholds, as resistances in consciousness that must be passed. Why 10 and not 7? 7 is the number of manifest completion. 7 planets governing the visible cosmos, 7 days structuring time. 7 represents the fullness of cosmic law as it governs generation, duration, and decay. But 7 is not ultimate. It describes the structure of the temporal order, the realm still subject to fate. 10 adds 3 transcendent principles. The 8th heaven represents constellational order, the fixed patterns governing even planetary movements. The 9th represents the boundary between creation and the uncreated. The 10th is source itself, indistinguishable from the awareness that comprehends it. The structure reveals not moral dualism, but ontological gradation, a spectrum from dense materiality to pure intelligibility. Each heaven marks a different resolution of the tension between form and formlessness. The lower heavens are battlegrounds, where divine order contends with resistance. The higher heavens transcend struggle by revealing both poles as necessary expressions of a more fundamental unity. Why are the highest heavens described only in paradox? Because they exceed symbolic capacity. Lower heavens can be imaged: winds, chariots, thrones, archives. But the 9th and 10th heavens are not within manifestation. They are the principles that generate manifestation. The 10th heaven is called the region of the Lord's face, yet no face appears. It is not the summit of a vertical hierarchy, but the center from which all hierarchy radiates. Not the final destination, but the origin always present. This reveals the hidden teaching. The 10 heavens are not stages on an external path, but modes of recognition. The soul does not arrive at the 10th. It realizes it never departed. Every lower heaven was a veil, a contraction, a necessary forgetting that makes the remembering possible. The cosmology is a technology of return, cartography of consciousness, gathering itself from multiplicity back into undivided awareness. The prophet stands before the final threshold. Behind 9 heavens descend in luminous terraces, zones of wind and judgment, mechanisms and archives, choirs and celestial law. Each a world, each a veil between the soul and its own ground. Ahead the 10th. But there is no gate here, no guardian to petition, no boundary to cross. The 10th heaven is not above the others. It is the principle within which the others unfold. It is not reached by ascending higher, but by recognizing what every step of ascent was occurring within, the light that witnessed the journey from its beginning. The ancient seers, Enoch walking through fire, the Persian magi climbing rays of endless light, the Christian mystics dissolving into luminosity, did not find God at the summit. They found that seeker and sought had never been divided. The highest heaven is not light, but the awareness perceiving light. Not presence, but the ground where presence and absence arise as a single motion. Not a realm, but the reality prior to the distinction between realms. The 10 heavens are not ladder rungs. They are consciousness recognizing its own depth. The final teaching is not spoken but realized. The highest heaven is the still point where all heavens converge, the eternal center around which every world, every layer of being, every fragment of creation revolves in perpetual return. The ascent ends where it began. But the one who returns is not the one who set forth.